Hello, and welcome to MMS 2012, the overview session of what's new in Ops Manager 2012. How are you doing tonight? Well, this afternoon. I'm all there already. So as I was looking at the keynote this morning, how many of you have watched the keynote? Okay, plenty. What surprises me the most is the simplicity. How easy it is to provision private cloud. How easy it is and simple to extend the capacity. How easy it is to monitor applications. Even it is easy now to talk to your procurement department because the licensing has been significantly simplified. So if when I step back and look at the Ops Manager history, I look at this from the angle of simplicity and what we've done as a product team, as a company, to simplify the management of workload, management of fabric, management of applications. So how many of you have started with MOM 2005? Wow, quite a few. Okay, so if you look back and what we've done essentially, we democratized the access to the knowledge. So with management packs, you are able to monitor Microsoft workloads, discover and monitor Microsoft workloads, and you're able to monitor the state. Then with subsequent release, a pretty revolutionary release of 2007, what we've done, we introduced the notion of a modeling. So you would be able to simply define your service and define your health model. With the next release, we simplified a heterogeneous support. So with Ops Manager 2007 R2, you're able to monitor Linux and Unix machines from the same operational console, from the same experience. And you're able to define your SLA to simplify SLA management. With 2012 release, we went further. We provide you a 360 view into your service, starting from the network into providing up inside and significantly simplifying the dashboards and visualization. We significantly decrease the TCO, and that's essentially our promise to you. We're trying to make sure that app management is very simple and very cost effective. With that said, right now, System Center 2012 is essentially a set of capabilities. And the way we look at it from essentially three big themes. It's broken into application management, service delivery and automation, and infra management. So if you will, application management is all about the self-service aspect of provisioning applications, managing the applications, and the providing deep insight into monitoring of the applications. Service delivery and automation is about codifying IT processes and standard routine tasks. Where infrastructure management is providing you a management and deep dive kind of into Fabric. Where Ops Manager fits into two categories right now. It fits into application management as well as infrastructure management. So if today we'll be talking about what's new in 2012, what features we introduced in 2012 to simplify application management and infrastructure management. And the agenda for this session is following. We'll start by talking what have we done on infra management and how we simplified the management of the infrastructure, network, as well as our own infrastructure. We then will talk about ability to monitor and understand the applications from the inside, from the client standpoint, and how easy it is to detect problems and understand the root cause. And then we'll talk about the visualization, how easy it is now to consume the information that is collected as a result of operational monitoring. So with that said, I'm inviting Joe on stage, Joe Chan, who will be talking about infrastructure monitoring.
Can everybody hear me okay? Hold on. Better? Awesome. Great. All right, so thank you, Victor. And I'm going to spend the next 25 or 30 minutes talking about infrastructure management. And I'm going to have Danielle come up and talk about application management. And then we'll wrap up the session talking about visualization in general. Before I dive into the new capabilities, one thing that I want to cover is that Operations Manager 2012 is a very significant and major release. And we're delivering a broad set of capabilities in new market categories, such as application performance monitoring and network monitoring. And we have significant improvement in the product architecture itself as well. So one thing that I want to talk about is an important engineering objective that we have mandated and enforced throughout our entire development lifecycle. And that is the preservation of your investments in your existing infrastructure today and how that will carry through post-upgrade. So we have looked at the previous releases, looking at what went well and what did not go well, and recognize that it doesn't matter how much value we deliver in a given release if we cannot preserve the investment that you have made in the past, for example, in the form of configuration or in the form of customization in management packs, then that will introduce a lot of pain points for everyone, as we have observed back in 2007. So despite the major changes we're introducing in Ops Manager 2012, that is this release, we made the promise to you that all of the key assets and benefits of Ops Manager in the previous release and your investment in them will continue to work seamlessly in this release, especially management packs. All existing management packs that runs on Ops Manager 2007 will continue to work seamlessly in Ops Manager 2012. In addition, we have continued to work internally with all of our Microsoft product teams partners to bring you the latest best-in-class server and operating system and workload monitoring experience. So case in point, the recent release of SQL Server 2012 management pack for both Ops Manager 2007 R2 and 2012 is a fine example of such collaboration effort that is still continuing within the company to yield a best-in-class monitoring experience for your various workload, and in this case, your data tier workload. So with that said, let's take a quick look at one of the most radical change we have made in Ops Manager 2012, which is topology simplification via the removal of the root management server role. Yes, go ahead, please. So for those of you who are not too familiar with the root management server role, let me take a few seconds to explain that. As Victor has mentioned earlier, as he was describing the major innovation in each of the previous releases, in particular the 2007 release introduced the concept of model-based monitoring. Now that enables the monitoring for more abstract concepts such as distributed applications, as well as more granular monitoring of objects such as database, websites, or a network adapter that are hosted or contained within a server. Now to enable this capability, the root management server role was introduced back in 2007 to provide central access to the model-based data and also intelligent processing of that data for the purpose of, for example, distribution or monitoring policy. So there's an important purpose in that server role. However, we all understand, and most of you in the room probably have seen the headaches that comes with that server role. We have heard from many of you that that is indeed a source of bottleneck for your management group. And clustering of the root management server is also a very difficult scenario to accomplish just to provide high availability in your management group. On top of that, for certain monitoring scenarios, such as Linux and Unix monitoring, where the servers that are being monitored is considered a remote entity, we don't have automatic failover in those cases. So if your management server that is proxying through that particular management server goes down, then you have a blackout situation for all of the Linux or Unix server that is managed by that management server. Now, we use a similar concept to do network device monitoring this release, and so we certainly don't want that to happen again. And so what we've done in Ops Manager 2012 is the following to solve the problem. First, we got rid of the root management server. That involves a couple of things. So first of all, we federated two components on the root management server. That is the configuration service and the SDK service component. In addition, we also introduced a new concept called server pool. And this server pool is actually a very powerful concept that handles two things. It provides high availability for certain workload that runs on the root management server, such as the calculation of state for your distributed application, as well as providing high availability for monitoring scenarios such as Unix and Linux workload monitoring. And so we've introduced these concepts, but it is a radical change in terms of the topology. So we have also spent countless hours, engineering hours, to ensure the process of upgrading your existing management group is simple and robust. So you can take your time to perform the rolling upgrade from your R2 environment to the 2012 environment. But no matter what your schedule is, we did everything possible to ensure that there's no blocking obstacle for you once your upgrade process started. One such example is the root management server emulator that we have created. That is a virtual object that ensures that backward compatibility for existing management packs that targets your root management server today will continue to work post-upgrade. So you can have the peace of mind that you don't need to add any extra items to your upgrade schedule just to ensure that things will keep working after the upgrade. So let's take a look at how this pool and this new topology works in a more visual fashion. So consider the following scenario. Say you have just started a monitoring project within your company with an objective of monitoring 100 servers initially. Okay? And all you really need is just one server, one management server, one database, and data warehouse. And that is enough to manage about 100 servers. And then you realize that, oh, well, I need high availability. So now in the new topology, simplified topology, all you need to do is just add another server. That's all you need to do. High availability comes right out of the box. You don't need to set up server clustering. The two management server understands that each other exists. And if one dies, the other guy will take over the other guy's workload. Okay? And that is also a very simple way of scaling out as well. So say you did a great job in using Ops Manager to provide monitoring service for your company, or perhaps your company is growing rapidly, and you now need to manage an additional 500 servers. Okay? With Ops Manager 2007 R2, you will probably need to get a higher spec server to run your root management server role. But with Ops Manager 2012, all you need to do is just add another server. We'll recognize that and we'll redistribute the workload to the newly added server, scale it out automatically, provide high availability out of the box, and it just works. And we'll recognize that every time you bring in a new server, and we'll redistribute the load again to ensure that we actually leverage that extra capacity. Now, in the case where one of the management server failed, the other management server will actually recognize that, and by themselves, they will redistribute the workload among them so that business continues for you. Just bring the server back up or add another server, and things will keep rolling. It's as simple as that. Now, this is a diagram showing you how the monitoring of the scenario of things like Unix and Linux or network devices will work. In the past, you have a single management server managing some remote objects, such as network device or Unix and Linux servers. In Ops Manager 2012, the concept of a pool, you can assign those resources to a single pool. You don't need to specify individual servers. You just say that for these 100 Unix or Linux servers, I want them to be managed by this pool that has 3 management servers in it. And that's all you need to do. We'll handle the rest. We'll distribute how they actually manage the monitoring workload themselves. And in the event of a failure of a management server, the other server will then pick up the workload and automatically handle the failover. And monitoring continues. No blackouts, business continuity served. Before I dive into network, I just want to let you know that you can learn more about this topic on Friday by attending Satya Vail's session on Operations Manager Topology Simplification and Upgrade. The session code is FIB310. It starts at 10 a.m. sharp, and he will cover the new Ops Manager topology in much more detail than what I'm doing here, and will step you through the entire process of upgrading or migrating from 2007 R2 to 2012. So consider this a movie trailer or just an ad for the Friday session. Okay, so network. We have heard from many of you for a long time that you really need increased visibility into your infrastructure. We understand that this is especially important in the world of private cloud, where you want a single tool to manage and monitor your entire fabric, which consists of compute, network, and storage. And you want to identify things such as service availability, responsiveness, and performance issue caused by the underlying network. You also want to see how your network devices are actually physically connected to your server as well. And in addition to that, you want to take all this information so that you really can engage in an intelligent dialogue or conversation with your, in the event of a service outage, with your network engineers, so that you don't have all these random finger pointing. You guys can just, show the facts. The information is right there at your fingertip, so that you can have a professional engagement there. So these are the requests that we've heard from you, and what we've delivered is the following: a first-class, native, out-of-the-box experience to discover, monitor, and report on your network environment. No additional imports of add-ons, no additional imports of management packs, no third-party components to install. You install the product, network monitoring is just going to work right out of the box. And we delivered fantastic reports from memory utilization to port traffic volume to analysis of port packets that is going back and forth on your network. We'll automatically discover server-to-network dependencies, and will support a large number of network device vendors, really large number of network device vendors. And will handle multi-protocol support, anywhere from SNMP v1, v2 to v3, take care of IPv4 and v6. And the entire platform, the feature itself is actually a very robust platform for partners to extend and build on as well. So we're pretty sure that we'll develop a very healthy ecosystem for anything that you'll need in the future that is related to a network or any device out there that requires the use of SNMP protocol-based monitoring. And for IT pros, you can also use this same set of SNMP templates and modules to build custom solution as well. So this is a very, very great features that will provide out-of-the-box monitoring to great extensibility. So let's step into a demo to take a quick look on this new feature, network monitoring. Bring up my console here. So now, if you go to monitoring and just look at Windows computers, you can just select a particular server. And on the action pane on the right, you'll see an option called Network Vicinity Dashboard. This is how we actually show you how you can see the physical connection between a server to your network tier. So if I bring this up, what you'll see is the next hop between your server to your network. Okay, and this could be a router or a switch, and you can then select that particular device and bring up what we call a node dashboard, which will give you more information on what that particular device is doing. So if you bring that up, we'll give you information from availability to within the vicinity of that device, what other device is being is connected to. You can also increase the number of hops if you want to, and get a bigger view of what your network looks like, just in case the problem is further down the network chain there. And that just gives you a view of how everything is performing within your environment. If a particular connection is down, you'll see that this line will go red. And if this particular device is also down, then that typically explains why you're having a network issue or availability issue that trace all the way back to your server. Now, this view right here, called instance detail, is really, really important when we talk to a number of partners out in the field. What they told us was that it was typically very difficult to get information around a particular device that is having issue. Typically, that information is very proprietary to the network engineers, but now we can automatically discover all this information and empower you to leverage this information to engage in a dialogue with the network engineers. We also give you information anywhere from response time to processor usage, and also give you information on specific interfaces or ports that runs on that particular node. Finally, we also have a great set of monitoring monitors and rules to monitor that device. If there are particular information or problem that we understand, you will have the knowledge right there at your fingertips again to add to that dialogue. So very, very easy to use and very powerful. So I won't take the thunder away from Vishnu, who actually have a session at 4 p.m. Right after this session on the subject of Ops Manager Network Monitoring. So I encourage you to attend that, and the session code of that is FIB 316, right, Vishnu? 316, right. And in that session, Vishnu will cover in a lot more detail the new network monitoring capability, including how to configure and discover your network, what type of devices and monitoring protocols we support, and how we provide rich visualization, which allows you to quickly pinpoint issues and the machines that are affected. So let me switch back to the slide and take a quick look at some of the new improvements in the area of Unix and Linux monitoring. So this is the last segment for infrastructure monitoring, and I'll just take maybe 5 more minutes here. So we have introduced the cross-platform monitoring in 2007, R2, and we've heard from many of you that it's great. And it helped many of you really to consolidate your monitoring infrastructure using a single tool to monitor both Windows and some of the Linux and Unix workload in your environment. Since then, we have continued to work on this area diligently based on your feedbacks. Some of the feedbacks that we've heard from you is that the requirement of asking your Linux administrator for the root credential just to discover the server is really a non-starter. So instead of that, you really want to have a pseudo discussion with the Linux administrator and manage elevation with more granularity. So that's feedback number 1. Feedback number 2 is what I just covered in the server pool concept, which is, we really have no failover capability there, and therefore no real high availability offered in the Linux and Unix monitoring story. And finally, some of you are concerned that, hey, are you going to continue to invest in this area and bring us support for things like Red Hat version 6 or Red Hat Enterprise Linux v6 and AIX 7.1, for example. These are becoming very popular in a lot of organizations. What is your roadmap for support for things like that? So what we've delivered in 2012 is that we'll no longer require the root password for Unix and Linux computers. Yay. And the ability to really elevate privileges using sudo is now supported. So your Unix and Linux admin can then use unprivileged accounts and give it to you for Ops Manager and manage the elevation using Unix and Linux tools in your environment. Resource pool is now a first-class concept in your entire experience in discovering and managing Unix and Linux computer. And I'll show you in a minute how that actually looks like. It's very, very simple and very, very native. The console UI right now can also discover Unix and Linux computer that has been discovered and installed, and will allow you to upgrade or uninstall the agents on those machines right at your fingertip on the console. So that's a great improvement there again. And finally, we've continued to make investment in new OSs such as Red Hat v6 and AIX 7.1. Those are now included in 2012 as well. So let's take a quick look at what the new Unix and Linux experience looks like. And we'll start with the more granular, low privilege discovery of Unix and Linux computer. Again, first class, it just shows up in computer discovery wizard. And we continue to support things like IP-based discovery or server name-based discovery. In this case, I'll just enter the server name. And one improvement that we made in 2012 in this area is that you can now apply credential to all of the computers that you want to discover in this discovery wizard. So let's say you entered in, 20 servers in one go. You don't have to apply credential to every computer again. You can just basically just apply set credential, and that will get applied to multiple computers that is being specified. And in here, this is where we allow you to do non-privilege based discovery. So I can say that I have an account called mom user, and I want to use SSH-based discovery, and I have my key here. And notice the great experience here. If you have some problem with your SSH keys, it'll tell you right on the spot that the key format is invalid, for example. And this is where you can specify that this particular account does not have privileged access. And you notice that the elevation tab then shows up, and you can choose to use either sudo or su elevation here. And if you need credential for su, and this is where you can specify it as well. Okay. So let me actually just enter something here, because the key here is really not valid. I'll just use this method right here. Okay. Actually, the next thing that I want to show you is the new shell command-based collection rule. So we head over to authoring. Authoring, great. You can now create a rule a probe-based rule that uses the Linux shell command. So one example that I've seen people commonly do is, for example, use curl, which is kind of like a lightweight web client that runs as a command in the Linux shell. And you can use that command to get things like requests per second, simple metrics like that. And you can then specify a rule to run at the interval. So I will create a new rule called requests per second. It's a performance collection rule. And now select a Linux or Unix computer. Click Next. 15 minutes is fine. And in here, this is where I can specify the command. In this case, I'm just using curl to ping a particular URL and get requests per second number back. And you can specify the account that is needed to perform the action. And you don't really need to touch the filter expression here. This is just to indicate that this is a performance, ensure that it's a numerical value that is coming back. And you can then basically just finish the wizard, create your rule, and that data will come back in as a form of performance counter, normalized just as any other ops manager collected value, and you can use that in any number of views that you want. So this is a great addition to the Linux and Unix monitoring story. Okay, so with that, I'm going to hand the presentation over to Danielle to do application monitoring.
Thanks, Joe. All righty. So just before lunch, there was a deep dive session on application monitoring. Can I ask how many attended that? Okay, good. So I can't plug that session because it was before, unlike Joe. So what I want to do, I'm going to do actually something a little bit different in this session, since some of you have been to it, some of you have seen it, and you would have seen some of this application monitoring in the keynote and in the System Center overview. I want to do a real live demo, and I've got an application that is available that you guys will be able to hit using your phones or your laptops. So when we get to the demo, I'm going to ask for a bit of participation. So what have we done within application monitoring? As Victor talked about, we really think about 360-degree monitoring as being able to really circle around the application and service and provide the visibility that people require. So we talk about being able to provide availability monitoring, be able to take the assets that we acquired and do that performance and reliability as well. And then ultimately the most important thing is to do diagnostics against that, to be able to do root cause, determine where the problem exists, whether that's in the application or it's down in the network using the investments we've made there that Joe just showed. So we took a lot of feedback around that. People want to be able to do this type of thing, but of course they want it in a simplified way. Reducing the configuration required to get this monitoring is something that you've been talking to us about for a long time. So what have we delivered here? So we have availability monitoring using rich transactions. So we've updated our templates within 2012 to provide that availability monitoring. We've provided the ability to use your operations manager infrastructure, and if it is geo-distributed, to be able to kind of create these visualizations like you see here. We've incorporated the assets we require to do performance and reliability of those applications built within .NET and really simplified the experience. So if you don't have knowledge for the application, running a set of wizards will get this monitoring set up. The ability to pinpoint the root cause of failure is key, reducing that mean time to restore. And of course, doing it without management packs. I mean, we want to be able to create an experience that gets you up and running. And then visualizations. Joe's going to come back on the stage later on after I finish my demo and show you some of the visualization experiences that we do have. And then lastly is integration with TFS, creating that connection between the IT pro and the developer so that you can forward rich information that you're gathering from an operations production environment and give it to the developer to be able to solve problems. And then what I will show as well, it's not listed on the slide, is investments we've made on the Java side as well, continuing like the Unix and Linux to make our cross-platform investments stand out. So let me switch across here. So what I'm going to do in this demo is I have, as I mentioned, I have an application called Dinner Now, this guy here. If you can see, let me see. This URL. This is a public URL if you have an internet or a browser. If you can hit this URL, I'll bring it back up in a second. What I'm going to do, I have this monitored back in Redmond. I'm going to clear out all the alerts. You're going to, if you can hit this application, which I'll bring back up here, if anyone is doing it, you'll notice that it will respond a little bit slow. And I'm going to do a little bit of not so good demo in here because I have to talk while you're kind of doing this, kind of to generate the alerts. So what we're looking to see is as you're hitting this application, it will be returning slow, which is a common problem that people have. You don't necessarily have the visibility into what's going on when your users are accessing it, okay? So it will return slow. So what I'm hoping will happen, and in real time here, as some of you kind of get it up, okay, I'm going to start getting all alerts associated with it. Just for the purposes to show that, I'll hit it here as well. This is the same website, and we should get some alerts coming in. Did anyone manage to get the site up? Yeah? Did you get it? Anyone else manage to get to Dinner Now? Okay. As I said, it is slow, pretty slow. Could be the additional load. Okay. So here it is coming up. So this is the application. Obviously, you can see it's slow. So now what we're looking for, because this is being monitored, we're looking for the alerts to be generated that can actually start to help me pinpoint the problem. As I said, I'm doing this live so we can actually show that it is working. Okay. So we'll wait a second for these alerts. The site is slow. We've got serious problems with this application. IOM is doing its job. We're just waiting for the app. Okay. What I'll do, since that's still loading, is let me just switch across and I'll talk a little bit about the Java investments we made, and I'll see if that comes back with the alerts in a second. So, move over. So on the Java side of things, as I said, we're continuing our investments from an application monitoring standpoint, regardless of where or what technologies you're using. So in Ops Manager 2012, out of the box, well, via importing a set of management packs related to Java monitoring, you're able to discover your Java applications running across your various types of Java servers, whether that be Tomcat or WebSphere. So once that's done, once you've imported your management packs without any configuration, you're going to get a view like this, which is your Java application servers and the applications running on there. Within these views, you're going to get the applications that are being monitored. You're going to get the configurations associated with the Java side of things. And what I have the ability to do, if you'll see here, I'm monitoring this Apache Tomcat. I have a set of properties associated with it. And I can actually go deeper and enable an additional set of monitoring through this task here. Launching this task will allow me to do deep monitored configuration, which is going to give me an additional set of information. So if I click on deep monitored configurations and look at the same server which has been enabled, I've got a whole additional set of properties that I have that have now been discovered in monitoring. So on the Java side, very rich visualizations, and of course fully integrated with Operations Manager so that we have the same capabilities you would expect from any monitoring. So I could launch the Health Explorer. I have the rich knowledge that we provide with all our Ops Manager management packs and monitoring that tells me what's going on. We have a set of, for each type of server we're monitoring, we've got a set of performance counters associated with it. For example, class loader, the garbage collection. Let me expand this view a bit. Heap memory. So very rich integrated. So that is out of the box. But as an addition to the Java monitoring we provide, we also have some additional templates available so you can do more rich instrumentation through GMX and MBeams. So if you have specific things configured for your Java instrumentation, using these two templates here, you can go in and specify the applications you want to target, the specific MBeams you want to monitor, and their associations there. So you can actually go deeper and through these templates provide the monitoring across your own instrumentations. So we have an availability monitoring one and a performance monitoring one. Okay, which follows the same thing, again using your instrumentation. Okay, so let me switch back. So that's on the Java side of things. And I'll come back and talk about the application servers and the various OSs we support from the Java side of things. Let me switch back here. And now we have a set of alerts. Now, that wasn't demo magic. It was just taking its time. So now we can see these are from hitting that application. I can see I've got real live events in here. I can see I've got two sets of events, client performance and server performance. With our APM investments, we actually monitor the performance and reliability applications from the server side. So through instrumentation, within .NET, we can provide the monitoring of transactions from the server side and from the client side. This is why I asked you to, if you had your browser available to hit it, is because we're sending instrumentation down and then gathering the performance from your perspective so we can see that. So you can see these coming in now. So if I look up at, let's start and see if we can troubleshoot this problem. Let me go to a client performance exception here. Okay. We have details of the alert here, and I'm going to launch our App Diagnostics console alert so I can see what's going on. I'm going to open this up now. Give it a second to load. Okay. Okay. So here we have our client performance event, so we can see where the time has been taken if we look across here. So we can see that the server response time, how long that took, how long it took to load the particular peripherals. I think this was obviously the event from my machine where it took so long to load. And then how long it took for loading the DOM. So now we can begin to kind of understand where the time has been taken. And I've gathered this information that is coming from all of the events that were generated through the traffic you had. But we really want to find out what's going on here. So I can go to distributed chains, and now begin to look at the problem being stitched together from the client side to the transaction side. So this will load in a second. So here we have a quick complete breakdown of what was called when you opened up that application. So we have the client side here, so like the average total time it took, okay? Then we have the server side, so we can actually drill through to this and have a look at that particular event. So we're now walking through the transactions as they were happening. One second to load here. A second. Okay. So here we have the event from the server side, and we're getting that code level breakdown of what's actually being called when you hit that website. So we can see here, okay, the WCF call being made, okay? And now let's trace that through. Again, so that was a WCF call, was calling this method here, get restaurant categories. I'm going to open this event. And I'm going to expand this out. And now we see the breakdown to the final call that had been made. Now the call that was being made when you were opening up that home page, one of the things that was being called was making this call to this stored procedure here on the SQL. So let's go across to my SQL bot. So now, from a particular workflow, I've identified that 18 seconds of the time being taken on that slow application has been made by here. I can now take this information to my developer for him to investigate what's going on. But typically what happens is, if I am passing this information over, he's going to say, well, typically, I mean, that looks like it was a one-off. Okay, how do you know this is happening consistently? What we do is we capture similar events. So for everyone is hitting this, we're going to be capturing everything that's happening. So we can say, no, this is something that's happening all the time. The next question typically gets asked, well, it's probably a problem with your environment. Your environment's probably slow. Now, given mine probably is slow. But we do capture information from the application as well that shows, well, actually, this is what was going on in the box when that request was being made. So we know that that slowness in the application wasn't caused by performance of the box. This is all this rich information here. So I can take that event. If I was using the TFS connector, I could forward this information into Visual Studio. For the purposes of the demo, I know, so we can see that the problem's been caused by this stored procedure. So let's go look at that. So here we have this stored procedure, and I'll have a quick look at it. And what we'll see is that, looks like someone left a bit of code in there that probably shouldn't be there, which is a wait. So let me just take that out, and we'll fix the problem now. Okay. So now if you still have that in your browser, if you hit the application, we hopefully should see that it responds a little better and should be working. Did it fix it? Anyone see it? I'll bring it up here just so we see that it is fixed. There we go. So fixing the problem. Now, I mean, it's a simple thing we've added to break the application, but actually identifying that when you're running an application in production is going to take a long time. And what we're showing here is through these steps that we're able to apply configuration to these applications through a set of templates and provide this rich information so we can actually drill through and get that. So with that, I'm going to hand back to Joe, I think, who's going to come back up and talk a little bit about our visualizations. Thanks, Joe.
Whoa, sorry. Should I have done that? Right. Yeah, that was a test. Actually, one thing I forgot to mention about the Unix and Linux stuff is that our friends Christopher Bash and Michael Kelly also have a session on Wednesday, which is tomorrow, at 10:15 a.m. So if you want to learn more about monitoring the LAMP stack on Linux and Unix, that's the session to go to. Session code is FIB315. And they'll walk through monitoring of Linux and Unix hosts, as well as application, focusing on the LAMP stack as an example. So just so you know. All right, so visualization. We've seen some of the great visualization example in some of the previous demo today. For example, when I was showing you the network monitoring capabilities there, I actually walked you through about 3 different dashboard example in a single feature. And what we've heard from you in the last couple of years is that the visualization capabilities that we provide in 2007 R2 really isn't powerful enough. And you really want to have a rich visualization experience for the great data that you have been collecting using the monitoring infrastructure. And for a lot of things such as just viewing the health of Ops Manager itself, just trying to manage this infrastructure yourself, it's not simple. You're walking through a lot of views just to get some insights about what's going on. Is there a better way to look at all these data for your servers and for your agent and application as a whole? What about workloads such as Exchange, SQL, and Windows? Do we have a better high-level and consistent view into the health of these workloads themselves? And if you provide a way, how easy it is to author them, right? And can these experiences that I create, are they portable? Can I just show them in the Windows console itself, or would they show up consistently in the web console and in the SharePoint server, for example, right? Obviously, if I pose these questions that I said that I got from you, obviously we have an answer for them, and they're listed on the slide here. So yes, we have developed a new dashboarding experience that makes your data looks great and is very simple to author. And I'll show you in a minute just how simple it is. And you just need to author it once, and it will show up identically in your Windows operations console, in your web console, or you can publish it to SharePoint if you want. And so let's actually just go right over the demo and see what that looks like. I think I'll start with the Operations Manager dashboard first. So the dashboard that I showed you on network monitoring was one example. This dashboard that I'm going to show you is a very simple dashboard that gives you a holistic view of your entire management group. And the program manager, OK, yes, his name is OK. I'm not saying that it's OK. His name is OK. He's Swedish. He reports to Daniel. Designed this dashboard. And he had got a nickname for this dashboard. It's actually called the Coffee Brick Dashboard. So this is the dashboard that you come in the morning, take a quick look to see if there's any problem before you decide to take a coffee break. Obviously, if something is wrong, you don't get to drink your coffee anymore and you've got to fix it. But this is the Coffee Brick dashboard. And what's great about it is it's really simple. It gives you a holistic view of all of the major functionality in your management group. For example, is your server pool up and running? What about your network discovery server? What about your SDK tier, your data access tier? Right? How are all those things running? And this thing is dynamic. So let's say I don't have audit collection service enabled in this environment. It doesn't show up. But if I do, it will just pop up dynamically. And to author a view like this is actually fairly simple because we're building on top of the data model that we provide in Ops Manager. And you really just simply select the component that you want, and all the dynamic experiences and behavior simply just manifests itself under the hood automatically. It also gives you the various components within your management server tier. So is your data warehouse up and running, your ops DB, and so forth. If you have any alerts related to your management group, it shows up right here, and you can just go and fix them. And it also gives you information about your agents at a glance. So one of the problems that we've heard a lot about is agent management issues. People reporting in and saying, my server is not being monitored, you guys are not doing your job, what is going on, blah, 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 right? And a lot of times it's just, they don't want you to push out the agent to their environment. They have to manually install the agent themselves, or they were mucking around with their own server and mess up the agents, for example. And if that is the case, right, this will just show up either in the alert section, or will tell you, for example, how many agents out there that has the wrong version, for example, and you can just go and fix it right from the view here. The whole point about dashboard is about bringing information together, correlating different information sources into a single view so that you can visually correlate what the problem is. And we have consistently applied this concept in 2012, whether it is in workload monitoring, to application monitoring, to network monitoring, or to the monitoring of the monitoring infrastructure itself. And it's actually a very powerful concept. And here's another example of a dashboard which basically visualizes numerical data, which gives you a health trend of what's going on in your management group. So for example, I can see that here's the number of alerts that I have in the last 7 days. Looks like my team is doing a good job. Usually when an alert happens, it immediately gets resolved that same day. But if you get a line that kind of goes up like that, so looks like you need to call a team meeting and see what's going on. Here, we gives you an overall indication of your agent health. So we basically do a total count of all the agents in your environment and shows you the number of agents that are healthy and which ones has become available at what time frame. Now, I only got 8 agents here, which is not very interesting. But imagine if you have a 2,000 server environment. This graph comes in handy to give you a quick view of basically how your infrastructure is trending very, very quickly. So just an example of how powerful dashboarding is in aggregating large amount of information and just simply giving you a sense of visualization of what's going on. Now let me show you how easy it is to create your own dashboard. And one of the simplest dashboard that we can create is the SLA dashboard, which is very popular. And you typically use it all the time. And you create a SLA a dashboard for, you probably have SLA for everything in your environment. And in 2007 R2, we introduced the concept of service level objective and service level tracking. And the feedback that we have got back then was, yes, it's great that I can create these objectives and I can have the tracking that is going on in real time. But to see what is going on is just not quite there yet. And so we took this feedback and used the same dashboarding framework to see if we can solve the problem easily. And in this case, I can easily create a dashboard for a service level against my application. So let's do one for the Dinner Now application that Daniel just showed you earlier. And this is my Dinner Now SLA dashboard. And And I simply go in and pick the service level objective that I've already set up for my Dinner Now application. Click OK. I want to look at the last 24 hours, that's fine. And I'll create it. And it's really, really simple. So it's done, and give it a minute to load. Some evil demon is just haunting this box. It's giving me and Daniel a hard time this morning, or this afternoon. So you got the whole thing, good evening, good morning, and good afternoon. Well, if we don't want to wait, I actually have another one that is created already. Let's see if that would come up faster. Or maybe that's a bad idea. We'll try again. There's just no way. No way. Some hacker has logged onto this box, and it's just, I told you, Daniel, don't make it available across the internet. So doing this exercise for people to just like ping the public website is just not worth it. Okay, so while we're waiting for this to open up, I just want to show you the new web console experience. Which is also taking a minute to load. Let's do a race here. Let's see if Windows console is faster or web console is faster. Okay, so on the Windows console side, the dashboard showed up, and you can see at a glance on how your application is doing in terms of SLA, and get some quick info on how your service level objective is constructed. And you can also see in visualized fashion from various locations how your application is doing, the SLA around that. So very simple to create, but very powerful. Now let's go back to that. This is the web console. I don't know if you even know that I actually switched console right here, but I'm in a browser right now. As you can see, I just created that a minute ago, and everything just looks identical. You just need to do it once, and you can just publish it to the Windows console and to the web console. As kind of ran out of time today, so I'll skip the part on doing the SharePoint part. But as you can imagine, this is really just a website. So adding a web part is really, really easy to publish that out to SharePoint. So thank you very much for your time today. That's all we have. And I think I'll have Victor and Daniel to come up to take questions as well, if you have any. If not, thank you very much for attending. We really appreciate your time.